Welcome to the latest episode of the Motorvait Supplier Showcase. I'm Neil Smith, CEO of Motorvait Automotive Consultancy. And in this series, I'm sitting down with the innovators behind the UK's most exciting automotive businesses, whether they're game-changing startups, industry disruptors, or established legends. We'll be diving into the latest digital and physical products currently shaking up the UK vehicle retail space. If it's making waves, we'll be covering it. On this, the 21st Motorvait Supplier Showcase podcast, I have a number of firsts to report. It's the first time I have a panel of 3 guests, not just the one. It's the first time I have 2 dealers on the show, as well as a supplier. And it's the first time I've invited back a supplier from a previous podcast. So, without further ado, I would like to welcome back to the show Gary Mongahan, CEO and founder of DRS Remote Vehicle Assessments and the Freeway Dealercommunity platform. And on their first appearance on the show, a warm welcome to Ashley Feldman, owner of Emotive Carsourcing, and Geoff Mawdsley, Operations Manager at Taylor's Select Cars. Thanks to all of you for being my guests today. As we've got a great deal to discuss today, I'm parking the usual icebreaker question for this episode only, so we can learn a little more about each of your backgrounds. So, Gary, for those who haven't seen the original podcast, tell us about you, your background, and how you ended up where you are today.
Thanks for inviting me back, Neil. I'll keep it very brief. I've been in the automotive sector for over 30 years now. Started my career in leasing in the fleet and contract hire section in remarketing. So I dealt with all the damage recharge to customers, did driver sales programs, set residual values, and dispose of nearly 9,000 cars a year through, at that time, auctions. Progressed on to, once I got that ground, I progressed on to looking at tech, because I always looked at, can we do things quicker and easier? Some would say I'm lazy. I'd say that I was more efficient. And I got involved in the tech side of things, getting involved in electronic remarketing. So I joined Central Motor Auctions at the time. Didn't quite work out as expected, because electronic auction wasn't really something that was new. So it took a little bit of time for it to be accepted. So then went on to global remarketing to continue the electronic remarketing program. Went back into leasing for AT&T, and then went back into electronic remarketing to develop an inventory management system, which is a company I set up myself called JTK Automotive, which specialised in inventory management, dealer-to-dealer tools, sales, selling stock directly to the dealers through electronic auctions, fixed stock locators, things like that. And then eventually sold out to BCA Marketplace. And now I'm back with something new.
Great. Thanks very much, Gary. So quickly now over to you, Ashley, for an overview of your background and how you have arrived at where you are today at Emotive Carsourcing.
Thank you, Neil. So my career has mostly been with BCA. I joined BCA straight from college, progressed through the ranks. I ended up being there in total 38 years. I did take a break in the 90s. I went to work for a rather small Nissan company called AFG, who at the time were the largest Nissan, or the largest dealer group in the UK. And I went there after my time at BCA the first time round to set up and manage an auction program for them. So we created an auction program. I was with them for 3 years, and it was an auction-only policy. At the time I started there, they had 173 outlets. By the time I left there, significantly less, because by that time they'd been taken over by the Barclay brothers, became Caledonia Motor Group, and they were selling off a lot of their outlets, particularly to people like Arnold Clark and Vardy at the time. I came back to BCA when we started redeveloping the Enfield Auction Centre, which was my closest centre and one I'd been very close to for many years managing. I went back, oversaw the redevelopment of Enfield, and then I progressed into general management, looking after various sites around the business. Latterly in my career, I started looking after appraisals, imaging, and at the very end, I was managing all the claims through their assured and grading program. I took early retirement in 2018, and I started emotive car sourcing at the tail end of 2019, just before COVID struck, which was actually worked in our favour because we were able to get vehicles that our clients couldn't. And we basically served the local community, members of the public, finding cars for them. And that's where I've been ever since. And you and I, Neil, met when I had a little brief sojourn with selling turntables or helping a business in the Midlands who were doing car turntables.
Yeah, I remember that. Remember that coming down to our Eastleigh Prep Centre?
Correct.
Back in the good old days, Ash. Yes, back in the good old days.
They were. So, seen a lot of changes, as we all have over the years. And now just, in our 6th year, and everything at the moment is going to plan.
Brilliant. Excellent. And last, but definitely not least, Geoff, what has brought you to this point in your career, that being the ops manager at Taylor's Select Cars?
Thanks for having me on, Neil. Really appreciate it. I'm going to run you through a quick background for me. So my automotive career started back in 2010 when I was just 18. Started with Imperial Cars just as we were opening the second branch in Portsmouth. I was with Imperial as we grew from the 2 sites into what was the national car market brand with well over 1,500 cars. Working with you, Neil, I was responsible for marketing, ROI and analysis, as well as our really brilliant advertising department who dealt with our digital product presentation. And we were really at the forefront of pushing forward with tech-based solutions to help the business scale. After a very enjoyable 7 years, I then decided to start my own car sales retailing business, and that was based in Northamptonshire. So started with a high street showroom with about 20 cars. And, this taught me an awful lot, going right back to the basics of, sourcing, people management, property leases, all this kind of thing. And then, a very short period of time later, it was a fully functioning retailing. It was obviously small. I think the biggest amount of stock we ever had was around about 40. When we had a showroom with 40 cars and a workshop and a few ramps. So that was all very exciting at the time. Fast forward to 2022, I then made the decision to step away from that business, and I moved into quite an interesting role as a used car buyer for a large main dealer group. This gave me a whole new insight, if you like, into the prestige world and developed my skills in probably the most important part of my work today, which is sourcing those prestige cars and understanding that market. After a while with that company, the opportunity arose at Taylor's, which I'm now, to start a new car sales division. So Taylor's have been established since 1987 here in North Essex. We're a Jaguar Land Rover approved service centre and a Renault approved repairer as well. Now, both of those areas of the business are seeing a lot of development recently, so that's all very exciting. We have around about 50 ramps, body shop facility, prestige showroom now, which has been going for about 18 months. So this has really made us into a one-stop shop and presents an awful lot of opportunity here locally for our, exhaustive customer base, I would say, especially in regards to sales and sourcing, because obviously the business has been here for well over 30 years as a service centre. Now to have the sales part really, in gear, we've got a lot of customers that we can market to and a lot of people that trust us already with their automotive needs for us to then to be able to find cars. So in the last 9 months or so, we've been using the appraisal tool, and this is all really feeding into what we're going to be discussing today.
Brilliant. Thanks all, and look, very enlightening, and it's fantastic to have such a varied and experienced panel of automotive guests on today's show. Now, I can hear the audience asking, why is Gary back on the show, and why are these 2 dealers on the show? If you watched the original episode, Gary teased that there was an innovative new product in the pipeline, something that would be of benefit to all dealers. That product is now live in beta test, hence inviting Gary back to the show to talk about this. And 2 dealers that have been engaging with the product during the beta test phase and have already realised the benefits from it. So this is your moment, Gary. Over to you to tell us all about Freeway.
Thanks, Neil. Well, for those that didn't see the last podcast, I intimated that we were considering building a marketplace. But we didn't want a marketplace that was just like any other marketplace. We wanted to be different on a number of points. And so we've taken our time to look at that and put that into our strategy. So essentially, Freeway is recycling unwanted part exchange leads, because not every vehicle that gets offered in part exchange fits the retail profile of of the dealer. And through some of the mystery shopping I've been doing over the years, it feels like, in my opinion, that the problem's given back to the consumer, such as, thanks for offering your car, but it's too many miles or it's too many owners for me. Have you tried something else to get rid of the car? And once you've done that, come back to us. And that becomes a broken journey for the consumer. They're gifting back the problem, when, for me, good customer service is, if you flip that round and say, it's not really a car for us, but I'll tell you what we're going to do. If you give me 24 hours, we're going to try and help you sell that car, because we want you to buy the next new car from us. And it's all about keeping that customer engaged with the first dealer that they sort of talk to. So this all starts with the original bit is the remote self-assessment. So that was designed for consumers to actually create profiles of cars in less than 5 minutes, to give the dealers an opportunity to provide a personalized valuation rather than an algorithm price, which is still subject to seeing the vehicle. And over the years, we've actually developed that so we can get a lot of information from consumer, which isn't hard work for them to do. But we allow the dealers to analyze that information and be able to see dents, scratches, panel misalignment, poor previous paintwork, all the things that they know will adjust the valuation of the vehicle. And for them to have an engaging conversation around that, so it's very transparent. But what we quickly realized is that with over nearly 8,000 consumer appraisals now, I've looked at this and thought, actually, I wonder how many of these cars are being turned away because they don't fit the dealer's profile. So what is the next solution I can do? Because the dealers are paying for that marketing lead to get them to the website, only to then say, it's not for us, go somewhere else. So we built Freeway as an opportunity to actually recycle those lost opportunities and allow the dealer to maximize their marketing spend by giving them an additional channel that allows them to earn additional revenue for those unwanted part exchanges. But more importantly, keep that deal in place with the consumer, be the champion, and say, I'm going to solve that problem because I want you to buy the next new car from us. And the marketplace, we tested it manually at first, Neil, with some, I take some of the images and I put them onto a Facebook group just to test the appetite. And we've had some success stories where cars have been traded from the south or all the way into Scotland. No grievances, no ambiguity, because it's very transparent. And we did 5 or 6 like that, which then gave me the confidence to actually invest in building the tech. And we've done that. And we've released it for some beta testing now. It is a little bit light on stock, but I can't create the stock. This is about a dealer community. It's about recycling those unwanted leads rather than passing them through to other car buying services and auction facilities. It's about keeping that customer engaged with the initial dealer and providing something simple for the dealer to say, how do I share that information with other like-minded dealers? Because whilst there's valuation data, which is great, that valuation data doesn't provide in the moment dealers that are looking to source cars for pre-sold orders. And it doesn't show the margin potentially or the extra money that dealer would give because he's already pre-sold the vehicle. And exposing that extra layer of value in the part exchange to give more money for the part exchange, to reduce the cost of change, and everybody wins. And there's no buyer's fees and no seller's fees, Neil, so it doesn't get diluted. Any bids that are offered by dealers doesn't get diluted, and that value is handed straight back to the consumer. So yeah, that's the principle.
Brilliant. Look, thanks for that comprehensive overview, Gary. And I think I can see the value in the platform and what that can deliver. And I suppose if I go back to Imperial days again, we saw that 2017, 2018, we were experiencing busy fool syndrome in terms of the amount of valuations we were providing on the website. Valuations that were clearly in a lot of cases being used as comparative valuations with other car buying services, with no intention from a consumer to move forward with purchasing the vehicle from us. So what we did at that point was we put a SMS code in place to make sure we at least got the consumer's correct mobile number, should they want to then get the valuation on screen. But even then, we found that 50% of people wouldn't pick the phone up. So it was clear they were using us as a valuation service and not anything more than that. We then introduced a remote vehicle assessment tool ourselves, which we developed ourselves. And what that allowed us to do was understand who were the committed people out there. If they were going to go and spend that time to do the remote assessment, then we had a pretty good chance of getting in contact with them because they'd committed to that. And they were customers that were either looking to sell their car and wanted to sell it to us, or they were looking to part exchange against a car we had. So we started to minimize that cost. You know, those leads were costing us £17 a time to get a dealer to get a customer to the website just to provide a valuation. So clearly see the value there. What we never did was take it on to do this sort of the trading and underwriting platform that clearly Freeway is now offering. So rather than me keep talking, because I tend to do a lot of that on these podcasts, I'll now hand over to Ash, who was one of the first users of the platform and of the remote vehicle assessment tool. So Ash, tell us about your experience on the Freeway platform and what it's like to operate in that environment.
So I've been rather fortunate. You know, Gary and I have spoken a lot about this over the last probably 18 months, 2 years. And Gary gave me the opportunity to sort of, if you like, test initially the app. And I'm not suggesting I'm in a unique position, but where I have a lot of my clients who are all private clients, who are now at the point where they're not only asking me to find them a vehicle, but also, you know, can you sell my old vehicle? So there's a two-pronged attack for me. So perhaps not quite so much the potential opportunity that perhaps a dealership would get that's got in Geoff's position, but a position where it's very personal to me. The customer is personal to me. I send them out the link. They do the appraisal, and up until Freeway was introduced, I was then sending that and using that as my appraisal to send to my list of contacts that I already had within the motor trade. And we were doing business off the back of that. And a lot of them were commenting, wow, this is good. You know, better than a load of photos potentially on a Facebook page or a forum with a narrative. This was factual stuff. And then as Gary started introducing the X-ray images, for example, then there was a better opportunity for them to start really looking at that vehicle without me having to intervene. And I probably traded 50% of those vehicles on behalf of my clients. And then, of course, Freeway came along and we started ticking the box to load them onto Freeway. Very, very simple process, no extra effort from my perspective anyway. And I started looking at Freeway and looking at the product that was on there. And as it happened, I had a particular need for a particular vehicle, and suddenly there was one there, and it was a Skoda that Geoff had loaded, and that was the first car certainly that I purchased, and I believe, Gary, it may have been the first vehicle that was purchased through the Freeway portal.
And, that's right, Ash. It was the one through Freeway. That was the first one through Freeway. But
yeah,
we can go back. The one that sticks in my mind is the Volkswagen Tiguan, which
yes.
was a customer of yours that was 68 miles away from your location.
Yeah,
which ordinarily you may have not have had the time to go out and visit the car, but by issuing the remote self-appraisal, you was able to get a profile of the car. You knew that the customer was committed because they've taken 5 or 6 minutes to do the appraisal. And then we put that onto a group which saw a dealer in Scotland that does really well with Volkswagen Tiguans. And they asked me for the full appraisal, which I sent them. And then they got into but it's 400 miles away. It's going to cost me a fortune in logistics. And I sort of kindly reminded them but there's no buyer's fees. It's a £22,000 car with no buyer's fees. And that deal happened, and that was introducing, I played no part other than introducing, the dealer in Scotland to Ashley. They brokered the deal, and the deal was kept alive. Ordinarily, that wouldn't have happened without those business enablers. And incidentally, Ash, I don't know whether you know, but the Tiguan, I checked the website of the dealer. He sold it in 2 weeks.
Good.
I think I think the moral of the story for me is that there's a bump for every seat, and it's timing. And you've just got to present the profile of the cars. Even the high mileage vehicles, there are businesses out there that see the value in high mileage cars that not everybody else sees. There are businesses out there that see the value in the end of life vehicles that will give more from them because they'll break them down and they'll do something different with them. And we've got to create a community that brings all those buyers in and present the vehicles that are on offer to the buyers where they'll give the most money.
Yeah, definitely. And look, I think it's great that there's clearly your use case, Ash, is, as you say, slightly different to a dealer, but you are looking to dispose of vehicles on behalf of your customers. And if you can provide that service, it sort of speaks to what Gary was saying about solving that customer's overall problem. Yeah. Because you're not pushing them back into one of the consumer car buying services now, or back into that trade space, or onto one of the aggregators to try and sell it privately. So you're providing a full service to that customer, which is clearly a far better experience for them.
It's a far better experience, but we have to have a health warning here, and that is that we've got to build, this community needs to be built, and the trust needs to be there, because we still get I have lots of examples where the car buying businesses, all the aggregators are offering, on the face of it, and we all know the background to this, more money than we're being offered within the motor trade without fees. And that's something as a collective we need to push forward and push through, because that does make the opportunities far harder to actually turn into a deal.
I think you're right, Ash. I think, coming back to the marketing spend from dealers, they spend that money to attract the customers onto the website or into that first point of negotiation. And for me, it's about keeping that first point of conversation going, not allowing it to drift off into other avenues because it's not a car that fits your retail profile.
Yeah.
I think that's where we've had a lot of success with it, really, in that, in the position that we're in, where we have a lot of service customers in every day who already trust us with their car. A lot of the time, they might be intimidated about going elsewhere for it. So, it might be a car that I'm not interested in retailing, or it's not for me, or I don't have somebody for it, X, Y, Z, but still go through the motions of keeping the customer on board with us, carrying out the appraisal, upload it to Freeway, and that gives us a real opportunity then to keep a customer in our environment, but also the opportunity for trade profit, and that's obviously a real big thing. And how easy this platform and system is to use is really where I think dealers, as they start to engage more and more with the platform, that's where they're going to see the benefit, because it's like Ash said, there's no extra work. You're going to do an appraisal anyway. You're going to try and punt that about, if you like, in one form or another, be it pictured on WhatsApp to a broker or something like that. This kind of takes away all of that fuzziness. It's a very clear and simple procedure. You do an appraisal, it lands in your DRS portal. You can then share that, onto Freeway straight away. You can share that as a PDF to whoever it is you need, and it's really going to help bring dealers together and basically minimize any lost opportunities.
Yeah. And look, I think you guys, obviously there's a couple of deals you've done through the platform already now, and I'm at risk of starting to sound a bit like the blind date version of a vehicle trading platform. So I'm definitely not Scylla, but Geoff, tell me, Geoff, is this the start of a beautiful relationship, not only with Ashley, but also with the Freeway platform?
No, it absolutely is. And, the early signs are there, and it's all very, very positive. And I think we can probably say between us that we've proven the concept works. Now is the time for people to become more aware of it and understand how easy it is to use and how powerful this whole concept is. Because again, we're keeping the control as dealers between ourselves. So, the customer stays happy, they're only dealing with one person. I mean, if you think about it, that you come in to buy a car and you have a part exchange that the person doesn't want, or isn't able to give a good price for in the customer's eyes, The worst thing it must be for them to hear, oh, sorry, it's not for me, go take it to one of the car buying sites. I mean, that's a really disruption to the customer journey and potentially a negative feedback from your business. So if we're able to then assist with all of that, it's gonna make the whole process a lot easier for dealers. It's gonna put dealers in touch with each other, grow as a community, and really the core aspect of it is that it builds trust. The quality of the appraisal software means that if the appraisals are done properly, you can really see, and you can basically put a guaranteed price on this car, and you can bid it, and you know that there's no fees. You're dealing directly with somebody. You're not dealing with somebody like an in-between who's trying to take fees out of each party and potentially not getting the best price for it, all this kind of thing. You're dealing directly. Like when I sold the car to Ashley, he contacted me, we dealt directly. He'd come to collect it himself. It was a perfect kind of proof of the concept.
Right, I'm definitely sending you two out to Cyprus on a date. Right, look, I suppose you touched on a point there as well, Geoff, which is how do we get more dealers on the platform? So how can we get these dealers onboarded, Gary? Is it a simple process?
Yeah, it's fairly straightforward. It's a website where you can go for a registration process. Obviously, we need to do some validation in that because we want honest. The success of this will be down to the integrity of the dealers between themselves. So we can do validation checks in terms of VAT number, company number, and trading insurance. But it's very difficult to police lots of other dealers, and so we'll do as much as we can. But the important thing, Neil, is dealers shouldn't just see this as a sourcing mechanism.
No.
Because it is dependent on them to help other dealers, buy stock from them by recycling the unwanted part exchange leads. And the point that I was going to jump onto next is there may be dealers watching this and saying, yeah, well, we value everything. You do, but when you value something you want for retail stock, do you value it more aggressively because you want it? And the stock that you don't really want for retail stock, do you value it cautiously or flippantly and just as a throwaway value? And that is the untapped value because, customers are savvy now. They can go to these on-site online services and get an indication of the valuation. They're not educated enough at the minute to understand or see the scratches, dents, things like that will devalue that initial online valuation. But for me, that's where the dealer can retain that relationship with the customer, engage with them with the appraisal, and then discuss why the value is different and why it's more personalised. Because they can turn and say, well, if we was trying to retail you a car with a scratch in it, you wouldn't pay the retail price, would you? You'd want a chip. It's the same thing.
Yeah, no, and look, we again go back to Imperial days. We did a lot of analysis around that part exchange piece, and in the early days, from when you joined, Geoff, which was pretty much the same time as I joined that business in 2010, just opening the second site, the mantra through that business was, wherever possible, get it below cap. There was no discussion around that's a great vehicle for retail. Let's do our best to give the customer the best value we can based on the condition of the vehicle, and let's not keep trying to nick it. And I think where we got to in the end, towards that 2019, 2020 prior to acquisition, we were doing that. We were basing the value on the condition of the vehicle, and we were starting to buy really good quality retail go-again stock. We weren't paying £600 fee, £200 delivery, £59 assured fee, or whatever that equates to. And I've probably mentioned it before. I was with a dealer a few months ago or a couple of months ago, bought a vehicle from one of those auction platforms, paid £19,000 for the vehicle, incurred almost another £1,000 in fees, delivery costs, etc. on top. So you're immediately eating massively into that margin. So whatever we can do as an industry, from an underwriting point of view, from a trade valuation point of view, from a physical stock, or it's virtual that's coming into the dealership and we want to try and get a deal done, whatever we can do to minimize the cost of acquiring or selling that vehicle on has got to be a good thing, because it just goes into the margin or allows us to give more for the vehicle, enabling more deals to be done because we've got a happy customer.
I think you're right, Neil. And something else that I've heard in some of your previous presentations that you've given through your consultancy is cost per acquisition.
Yeah.
And if you're able to keep the best cars for stock and trade the other ones, imagine what that's going to do for your cost per acquisition. It's going to drive it down. It has to, because you're monetizing every single lead.
Yeah, totally.
Mm.
Look, guys, we're nearing the end of the podcast, so probably just throw this over to Ash and Geoff again for any final comments.
I think from my perspective, any opportunity to leverage, to get rid of those costs, to be able to say to my clients, the offer we are giving you is, with confidence, this is, guys, the best offer you're going to get. That's the important bit. And I haven't got a silver bullet to say how we go about that. But what I do know is the more people we can have on the Freeway platform, the more people we can have that are doing business together and starting to understand that, yes, we're going to take what we would have paid one of the corporate car buying services or one of the remarketing businesses. We're going to take maybe all of that or maybe some of that, but that's going to go back into the pocket of our client, of our customer, which is going to give them the confidence to come back to us another time with the next car they want to sell or part exchange. How we get to that point, I think it's just about building the community. And, there's a fine line between trying to, and I don't like the term, but nick a vehicle. Yeah. And pay the right money for it in the market.
Yeah, I think it's all about being fair and even-handed, and getting the best. It's a win-win, really. It should be a win-win. And Geoff, I think you touched on a point which is probably pretty relevant as well, around the fact that you've got these vehicles, X amount of wraps, the 30 ramps. You've got vehicles coming in every day. Some of those vehicles are vehicles that those individuals having the service on may be getting close to the time that they want to change the vehicles. And I know this is something you did in the previous business, the Mercedes dealership you worked on there. You would put prices on mirror hangers on vehicles that were in for service speculatively, saying, look, if you are looking to sell this vehicle, this is what we'd be prepared to offer you, because you were trying to self-generate stock. And I'm sure that's in your mind at the moment in terms of being able to use Freeway, where these vehicles aren't actually yet in market to be disposed of. You can now be pushing that customer to see if they do want to get out of that vehicle, and it's a vehicle that know is brilliant for you. So I'm sure that there's an element there that might work for you within Freeway.
Yeah, definitely. And we've already seen some of that happen already, where I use the remote self-assessment as a non-remote self-assessment. I do it myself here as for service cars. And that's proven to be a really good way of getting all the information for this appraisal in a digestible format to then send it out via Freeway or via the PDF link to any other person who might be interested in it. So I think this tool is very versatile because we've got loads of different avenues in which we can try and maximize it. And one of those is, again, a big part of my business is purchasing cars for trade that I wouldn't normally look to retail. But again, and those cars are going to be service cars, usually quite high spec, quite fairly new Range Rovers and Land Rover Defenders. And we've built, quite a good few relationships over the last few months with those buyers, and using Gary's software as the core element of that. And the feedback we've had from that is fantastic. So what I would say is to any dealer that's on the fence, or just speak to Gary, get some more information, and because it is so easy and there's so many applications for this software. Everyone's got a different style of business, different style of how they deal with selling your car leads or part exchange appraisals, but we're definitely onto something here, and it's just a case of, it's a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy, I suppose. The more and more people engage with it, the more and more people will, get the appraisals done, pass them over to Freeway. Naturally, there's going to be a bigger platform for us to be able to purchase from as well. So it kind of feeds into itself. And I think that's where we really need to focus on now in the coming months, is to generate awareness and for people to understand how easy and how, the potential of this tool is really, really great.
Yeah, and it is now about building the user base. To sign up for Freeway it is free if you want to access and look at stock that's available from dealers like yourselves, guys. So in conclusion, Freeway is a dealer community platform dedicated to the free underwriting and trading of used vehicles, which provides a very high level of competence in the vehicle condition, delivered via the detailed and comprehensive vehicle appraisal. The platform doesn't just allow for the trading of physical vehicles, it also acts as a deal maker, thanks to the upstream underwriting option, allowing dealers to make deals happen that right now would be missed opportunities. Before we finish, Gary, I'll just hand over to you for any last comments.
Referring back to the laziness stroke efficient person I am, the next thing we're looking at is obviously as we scale Freeway is to make the negotiation process between buyers and sellers even simpler. And I just finished with the dev team yesterday to roll out phase 2 enhancements. So yeah, and when you register for Freeway, you also, you're invited to join the Freeway WhatsApp group where you can keep up to date and even share with us some, information of like what you'd like to see in Freeway. So we build it, by dealers for dealers.
Brilliant. Excellent. Thanks all. I've really enjoyed our chat today. Gary, thanks for taking the time to talk us through the Freeway platform. And Geoff, Ashley, thank you for your invaluable feedback as to the benefits you've already seen delivered via the platform. Thanks again all for your time today. For more information about Freeway and to register for your free account, visit the website www.freeway-motors.com or message Gary on LinkedIn if you have any questions. Thank you for watching, and a quick reminder that here at Motorvait, we offer 1-hour remote one-to-one dealer discovery sessions for free. To learn more about these sessions and why you should book one, visit our website, www.motorvait.co.uk. Goodbye for now.